Shalom, family. This is Judah. They have said, "Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee." That's Psalms 83 and 4 and Psalms 83 and 5. Why do I mention these verses? My question to everybody out there, especially the Christians, is the New Testament the new covenant? If you're wondering whether that question is valid or not, just think about this. Throughout most of the world, there has been so-called Bibles distributed, especially in the continent of Africa, where the only Bible they were given was the New Testament. And on the front of their book, it says the New Covenant. So it's no wonder why people are so tangled and misled and misunderstood. And this wasn't a coincidence. This was by design, which is why I read you Psalms 83 and 4 and Psalms 83 and 5 to remind you this attempt to mislead you was not a coincidence, and it has not stopped. I believe one of the biggest problems with our people is they read these scriptures themselves, but yet they don't focus on the fact that they are relevant today. So it's like knowing there's somebody out there to get you, but you don't look for them. You just walk along through your day as if nothing is out of the ordinary. There's always this enemy seeking to destroy you. Is the New Testament the new covenant? We're going to find out the truth. Jeremiah 31, verse 31 to 34. Jeremiah declares, "Behold, the days come." This is very significant. The days come. We're talking about days that are to come. Those days are not quite here yet, and we will see why I say that a little bit later on. But Jeremiah said, "The days come, says the Creator, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah." Now, right here, I want y'all to use your logic. Has there been a covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah today? Being honest and realistic, no. It hasn't happened yet. And you'll see why I say that just a little bit down the road. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. For as much as they broke my covenant, although I was a Lord over them, says the Creator. But this is the covenant that I will make. The word will suggests future. As I said just a second ago, that covenant has not been struck yet. And I'll show you why in a few minutes. There's things that needs to happen first that has not happened yet, which will make the new covenant 2,000 years too soon. You'll see what I'm talking about in a few minutes. But this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after. These are the reasons most people misunderstand the scripture. They don't pay close attention to the verbiage. With the house of Israel after those days. What days? The days that are coming, the last of the last. Says the Creator, I will put my law in their inward parts, and in their heart I will write it. Has that happened? Be honest. No. No, that has not happened. So those days, after those days, have not come yet. When they do, this will happen. And I have the utmost of proof that it has not happened. I will put my law in their inward parts, their entrails, their gut, and in their heart. I will write it. And I will be their creator, and they shall be my people. And they shall teach no more. Listen close, y'all. This is how we know the New Testament is full of bull, and it's an all right out lie. This is what's gonna happen when that day come. After those days, listen close. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know the Creator. For they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them, says the Creator. For I will forgive their iniquity, and their sin will I remember no more. Somebody tell me, has this happened yet? Are we still teaching today? Just go on YouTube, Rumble, and BitChute. Everybody and their mama is teaching. Most of them shouldn't be. But the fact is that we are still teaching. So this has not happened yet. Christians believe that the term New Covenant means the implementation of a new religious obligation in the form of a new covenant, which is to take the place of the old. Chew on that for a second. We're going to talk about the Christian beliefs and why they're so jacked up. This new covenant, they allege, is Christianity in the particular form to which they personally adhere. In truth, Jeremiah's prophecy says absolutely nothing of a new covenant that will supersede the Torah. There is no other book. That's what this is telling you. That's what Jeremiah is telling you. Says Jeremiah's prophecy says absolutely nothing of a new covenant that will supersede the Torah, meaning there is no book that can surpass the Torah. It is perfect or contain any changes in the Creator's commandments to Israel. Family, listen, there is no changes. The New Testament is all changes. Jeremiah's prophecy told us nothing will supersede the Torah, and there will not be any changes to the commandments. What Jeremiah declares is that the Creator will establish, listen carefully, a new covenant with Israel that, unlike the old, will be faithfully observed by Israel, because it will become innately part of their being. It will be burned, etched into you. You will not need to be taught. The Creator will then grant them freedom from subjection to their foes. Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 44. Let me ask y'all something. If the Creator established a new covenant, meaning brand new, different from the original, what would happen to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They are already dead. So they would be left out. But if he renews the original, then everybody is still included. Nobody gets left out. This is the reason I do not really like talking to Christians, because they are so indoctrinated. You can't give them logic. You can't talk with common sense to them. And it's all right there in the book that they refuse to read because they think it's outdated. How can something that is perfect be outdated? So let me read this one more time. What Jeremiah declares is that the Creator will establish a new covenant, renewed covenant with Israel that, unlike the old, will be faithfully observed by Israel. That's because he will put it in their inward parts and write it on their heart. That's different from what happened in the beginning when they broke the covenant. It was not put in their inward parts, and it was not written on their heart, because it will become innately part of their being. It will be a part of you. The Creator then grant them freedom from subjection to their foes. The Creator is to confer upon Israel a new covenant of protection, one which will never be broken by them once, listen carefully, once they are restored to their homeland. Are we in our homeland? No, we're not. So how can there be a new covenant? This has to happen first. There is no reason to assume that the term new covenant means that there is a change in the eternal Torah. It is rather a reaffirmation of the commitment to the Torah. What is a commitment to? The Torah. That's not the New Testament. Given at Mount Sinai. It will resemble the covenant made by King Josiah to observe the what? The Torah. Listen to the Creator telling you which book you need to observe. Which took place during the lifetime of Jeremiah. And the king stood on the platform and made a covenant before the Creator to walk after the Creator himself and to keep his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes with all his heart and all his soul, to confirm the words of this covenant that were written in this book. What book? The Torah. Why is he not telling you that the New Testament is also to be observed? Because to him, it don't exist. He's giving you the only thing he wants you to have. The only book you are advised to acknowledge and observe. And the people stood to the covenant, 2 Kings chapter 23, verse 3. But unlike this pledge to adhere to the covenant, which, though well-intentioned, did not last very long, the one Jeremiah speaks of will be everlasting. Okay? The prophet stresses the covenantal nature of the relationship between the Creator and Israel, but now there is an emphasis on the permanent faithfulness that will occur, listen to this word now, the verbiage, that will occur on the part of Israel, which will allow for the Creator never having to neglect or forsake his people. The concept that the ancient divine law will be renewed as an everlasting inscription upon the hearts that will never be forgotten is not confined to Jeremiah's prophecy alone. The same prophecy is similarly found in Ezekiel. And I will give them one heart, and I will put a new spirit within you. And I will remove the stony heart out of their flesh, and I will give them a heart of flesh, that they may walk in my statutes and keep my ordinances and do them. And they shall be my people, and I will be their God. Ezekiel chapter 11, verse 19 to 20. The covenant made at Mount Sinai is ageless. It is ageless. There is no end to this covenant, which means there is no new covenant. Now, there will be a renewed covenant. Listen to this. The covenant made at Mount Sinai is ageless and is never to be superseded. It may be renewed and reinvigorated, but never superseded by a new covenant that is the antithesis of the Mosaic law. It is declared, and yet for all that, when they are in the land, what? For all that, when they are in the land of their enemies, I will not reject them, neither will I abhor them, to destroy them utterly, and to break my covenant with them. For I am the Creator, their Father, but I will, for their sakes, remember the covenant. This is important. For I will, for their sake, remember the covenant of their ancestors. That's not new, y'all. That's renewed. The covenant never changed. It got renewed, just like a contract you make with somebody to build or to pay a debt. When that contract runs out, you have the option to leave it or renew it. Ours is being renewed. We don't have any new covenant. As I mentioned above just a few moments ago, if there was a brand new covenant, it will have to leave Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob out. And we know that ain't gonna happen. But to renew the covenant, which was established in the Ancient of Days, it leaves Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob inside the fold. They didn't get left out. For their sakes, remember the covenant of their ancestors, whom I brought forth out of the land of Egypt in the sight of the nations, that I might be their God. I am the Creator. Leviticus 26, verses 44 to 45. Jeremiah reasserts this message. Behold, I will gather them out of all the countries to which I have driven them in my anger and in my fury and in great wrath. I will bring them back. Back where? To this place. That has not happened yet. It is a future prophecy that will happen in the future. It has not happened yet. And I will cause them to dwell safely. Are we safe? No. And they shall be my people, and I will be their God, and I will give them one heart and one way. We know that is not happened yet. How do we know? Look at all the confusion between the people of Israel. One side wants to follow the New Testament. The other side is Torah only. Look at the division. How is that one heart and one way? When this happens, there will be one book, one book that stands after all the shit hits the fan. Excuse my French. There will be one book. There won't be a New Testament. And if you were in that book, then you will be destroyed. He says, I will give them one heart and one way, that they may fear me forever, for the good of them and of their children after them. And I will make an everlasting covenant with them. I will make an everlasting covenant with them, that I will not turn away from them to do them good. And I will put my fear in their hearts, that they shall not depart from me. We know that is not past yet. That has not happened yet, because we're too divided. Yea, I will rejoice over them to do them good, and I will plant them in this land in truth, with my whole heart, with my whole soul. Has this happened yet? Are we in that land yet? No. This is obvious. Makes you wonder, how can somebody calling themselves a Christian not see this? Well, I'll tell you why. Because they don't touch the Torah. They believe it was done away with. It's obsolete. I'm going to prove that to you just further down the road. And I will plant them in this land in truth, with my whole heart and with my whole soul. For thus says the Creator, just as I brought all this great evil upon this people, so will I bring upon them all the good that I have promised them. Jeremiah 32 and verse 37 to 42. The author of Hebrews, that New Testament fake book, totally disregards the plain meaning of the prophetic message reiterated throughout the scriptures. That's why Christians are ignorant. He alleges in that he says a new covenant, that he has made the first obsolete. Let me explain that. Let me break that down. The book of Hebrews basically says that the moment the Creator says new covenant, he made his first covenant obsolete. Can y'all see how stupid that is? And this is why the Christians can't move forward. This is why they can't let go of that indoctrination, because they don't see this. Now that which is being made obsolete, this is what the Christians think now. Now that which is being made obsolete, this is the New Testament. This is in the book of Hebrews. And growing old is near to vanishing away. This is a total contradiction of the biblical teaching, which states the works of his hands are truth and justice, and his precepts are sure. They are established forever and ever. Contrary to the Hebrews in New Testament, they are done in truth and uprightness. Psalms 111 verses 7 to 8. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our Creator shall stand how long? Forever. Doesn't that eliminate New Testament people? I mean, isn't this elementary? Isaiah chapter 40 verse 8. The scriptural message is clear. The Creator enactments are eternal, valid, and immutable. You can look at Genesis chapter 17 verse 7 and verse 13 and verse 19. Look at Psalms 105 verse 8 to 10 and 1 Chronicles chapter 16 verse 13 to 18. It's obvious that new covenant does not mean that there is a replacement covenant. The use of the word new accords with biblical poetic style to express a reinvigorating or renewal of that which is already in existence. Isaiah could record God's words, "For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, Isaiah 65 and 17. And yet this does not contradict, and the earth abides forever. Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 4. God is speaking metaphorically of his reordering of that which already exists. There is no literal new heaven and earth. So to Jeremiah's new covenant is not to be viewed as a replacement of the existing covenant, but merely as a figure of speech for the reinvigoration and revitalization of the original covenant. Jeremiah records God's words to his chosen people, and you shall say to them, thus says the Creator, the God of Israel, cursed be the man that does not hear the words of this covenant, which I commanded your fathers in that day that I brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, out of the iron furnace, saying, listen to my voice, and do them according to all which I commanded you. So shall you be my people, and I will be your God. Jeremiah chapter 11, verse 3 to 4. The people of Israel possess a God-given, timeless, covenantal relationship. An old covenant, yet a new covenant, everlasting in its nature. There is no new covenant, only a renewing of the first or original covenant. Let's look at some of the twisted Christian views. Is the Old Testament abolished? The view of some people that the Old Testament of the Bible has been done away with in the Christian era is, to put it mildly, a misconception. Indeed, the event of Jesus Christ brought about a modification of the Mosaic law. Y'all get that? A modified version of the Mosaic law. Yet the change was not calculated to rule out the use of the Old Testament by Christians, which they rarely ever do. And when they do, they don't understand it because they don't know how to find the context, and they completely ignore little bitty words that means a great big thing. The Old Testament, otherwise known as the Hebrew Scriptures, is the first of the two great divisions. We remember, y'all, we're looking at the Christian view, so y'all pay close attention. Don't get confused. The Old Testament, otherwise known as the Hebrew Scriptures, is the first of the two great divisions of the Holy Bible, containing the Creator's covenants with man. It is made up of 39 books, which are counted from Genesis to Malachi. The contents of the Old Testament include the accounts of the creation, the fall of man, and the manifestation of the Creator's justice, the deluge, the Abrahamic promise, the laws of Moses to the nation of Israel, and other typical incidents of far-reaching spiritual significance. The Psalms, Proverbs, and prophecies. Among those who profess to be Christians, there are some who in their teaching discard the Old Testament and cause their followers to understand that Christians have nothing to do with it, in that it was intended to serve the natural Jews alone. Wow. For this reason, Christians frown upon any reference to texts in the Old Testament, unless it refers as to what they believe is suggesting the prophecy of JC, which they even got that wrong. This below is what Christians believe. In a Bible correspondence course by the Church of Christ, it is stated the Old Testament was God's law to the Jew. It is most important for us to realize that God will for us is found in the New Testament, not in the Old. Can you believe that? This is what they believe, y'all. Let me say that again. It is most important, this is the Christians talking, for us to realize that God's will for us is found in the New Testament, not in the Old. Can you believe they fixed their mouth to say that and their fingers to print it? Here are 3 reasons why we cannot today go. Now remember, this is Christian talks. This is not Torah, this is Christians. This is why they have such a big problem. This is why they're so lost. Here are 3 reasons why we, the Christians, cannot today go to the Old Testament to find what God requires of us. Number 1, the Old Testament was God's law to the Jew. We as Christians were never under it. The 10 commandments were given to the Jew only, never to the Gentiles. Read Exodus chapters 19 and 20. You cannot break the 10 commandments any more than you can break the law of China. Can you believe they said that? Now do you understand why they are, when you can't talk to them because they talk pure ignorance. You can't make no sense out of nothing they say because where they learn from absolutely makes no sense. So they vomit up what they have eaten, which is complete idiocracy. They say the 10 commandments were given to the Jew only, never to the Gentiles. They say you cannot break the 10 commandments any more than you can break the law of China. You are not and never were under those laws. The Old Testament never contained a plan of salvation. What? Yeah, this is the Christians' beliefs. The Old Testament, which is why they don't touch it, never contained a plan of salvation, not even for the Jew. At best, all he could do with his sacrifices was to postpone the punishment for his sins for 1 year. His sacrifices could not take away his sins. You are not under the Old Testament because Jesus took the law of Moses out of the way at his death. Now do you see why they are so stupid? I got to read that again. You, the Christians, are not under the Old Testament because Jesus took the law, stole it, of Moses out of the way at his death, meaning you don't have to worry about those laws that the Creator said was permanent. You don't have to worry about them. Jesus took care of that. He taketh away the old covenant. Y'all got to keep in mind, this is the Christian's version. He taketh away the old covenant that he might establish the new covenant. Okay, so they're going to leave Abraham and Jacob and Isaac out of it, right? Because they're talking about a brand new covenant. They're not talking about a renewed covenant, which is what the Creator said. He's renewing the original covenant. The Christians and their leader, JC, is making a brand new covenant. So he's going to leave Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob completely out of the fold. That he might establish the new covenant by thee, which will we are sanctified. Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 10. Go read it for yourself. The foregoing quotes, no doubt, represent the argument of those who hold the view that the Old Testament is out of date. That's what the Christians believe. And I know this to be a fact because I talk to them on a daily basis. At least I used to. I just shut them out now. I don't bother. I don't worry about it. I ain't got time to fool with that. I got people that are waiting on the truth. And if I tie myself up with these idiots, then the people waiting for the truth that are willing to see, I will never get to them. And I suggest, don't you waste your time with them either. It's a lost cause. They said the Old Testament is out of date. The Creator says his laws are permanent, eternal. How can that become out of date? Christian belief. When God said a new covenant, he has made the first obsolete. That's the Christian's version. They believe that, y'all. But whatever is becoming obsolete and growing old is ready to disappear. Man, I'm so glad I'm not a Christian. I would never want to be that dumb. This is what the sovereign creator says in Psalms 19:7. The law of the creator is perfect, refreshing the soul. The statutes of the creator are trustworthy, making wise the simple. This word perfect is never ending. You cannot improve perfection, or the fact of perfection would not exist. There is no room for improvement. The Almighty Creator said his laws are perfect. This means that there was not left any room for improvement, which is exactly what the New Testament claims to do. Improve perfection, as we clearly see, is not possible. Malachi 3:6, for I, the Lord, do not change. Therefore, you, O children of Jacob, are not consumed. I am the Lord, and I do not change. The Christian beliefs are 2,000 years too early, because before the covenant can be renewed, there are things that must come to pass before the covenant can be implemented. So let's take one more look at those things that must happen first before the new covenant is put into reality, or should I say, renewed covenant. First, the Creator must renew the covenant with the house of Israel and Judah in the land, not in their captivity, in their land. Number two, all teaching will come to a halt. No more will men teach, because all will know him, the Creator. Everybody will know. How? Because the law will be put in the inward part of man, written in the hearts of man. These things must happen before any covenant is renewed, and none of them has happened yet. So you wonder how the Christians are so, I can't even find a word for that kind of ignorance, so I'm just going to use ignorant. How can anybody, as old as most of them are, be that stupid? I can understand a 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old, but a grown man or woman that can read? Can you be that gullible to be sucked into a doctrine that has nothing to do with you and everything to do in your destruction? I rest my case, and I hope y'all enjoyed your Sabbath. Shalom.